Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bun Bun. We are two sleuths who are just trying to make it in this crazy world of only murders in the building. And here we have our first of what is going to be a weekly series of theory videos, which are all going to be breaking down little parts of the show. And this is all about suspects. Who killed Sazz Pataki?
Yes, very, very early suspects, whether it's Sazz was actually the intended target or Charles was the intended target. Of course, in our review, we talked about a couple of early suspects, but here we're going to dive deeper into some suspects that we did not talk about in that other video. And all theories are welcome here, as we always say here at the channel. Nothing's been proven yet, so all theories are right. So put them on out.
Yeah, this is just going to be a very fun exploration through a lot of the odds and ends, the stuff we've seen in the premiere, and we'll also kind of be looking at certain theories as well through the lens of the entirety of this show, because it does feel like at some point it wouldn't be the biggest like jaw dropper in the world that, we have a murderer who's actually connected back to past seasons as opposed to somebody who's just showing up for the first time now.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, whether it's Sazz or whether it's Charles, that text message that came in at the end of the episode tells us that it's personal. This is like something that's pretty deep in somebody. This isn't just a nothing murder. This is somebody feels wronged by either Sazz or Charles.
All right, well, before we go any further here into all of this, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we're doing 3 videos a week here on Only Murders in the Building. Every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, you're going to be able to check out our latest review. Later that day, we'll have a preview for the next episode. And here on Wednesdays, we're going to have a theory for you guys every single week. We do not want you guys to miss those.
We also have a ton of other shows that are coming up here at the channel. We're going to be covering Slow Horses. So if you're looking for another fun sort of like mystery thriller to jump into, Slow Horses is so good. Thank you again for turning me on to that show. It stars Gary Oldman, who's my favorite Dracula ever. He's amazing on this show as well. We also have From is going to be coming up. The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon is coming up. Grotesquerie is coming up. It's going to be very busy September. So hit that subscribe button.
And if you guys did not know, right now, we have a poll going on at our Patreon. A link is in the description below, where our patrons can choose one of 3 shows that we're going to cover exclusively on Patreon through the upcoming season. Those shows are Tulsa King, The Old Man, and The Penguin. We're really looking forward to seeing what our patrons have to say. So if you want to join our Patreon, you can do that with the link in the description. And thank you to those of you who have.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to start here with the suspects that are tied to the movie, because if you guys watched our premiere review, where I'm sort of going with this right now is that I think whoever the killer is somebody who is already working on this movie in some shape or form, just because this is not a super long show. They don't have long run times either. There's only so much they're going to be able to cram in. I think they're going to sort of mold these worlds somehow. We'll mention Eugene Levy, Eva Longoria, and Zach Galifianakis here, but they're not the killers, because if they were the killers, it would make it so that Charles would not have been able to sign over his life rights if Charles was the target, and that would have delayed production and their jobs and their money significantly. There's no motive.
No, it would delay it in ways that can be tied up in courts for years. I'm a former funeral director, and I've definitely worked in estates and aftercare, and it can get very complicated. So if Charles is dead, he can't sign over his rights. Who knows who's going to be in charge of that? So they could decide to just not do it.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I'm including in here as the, okay, you're not the killer group, Molly Shannon, who, apologies to Molly Shannon, I probably will not remember the name of your character for
Bev
the entire...
Mellon.
Thank you.
Mellon.
This is
Daryl Strawberry. Remember, they had the whole thing of like somebody's named after fruit.
I was very worried that this was going to be like on our patron videos for Criminal Minds Evolution, where I continued to call Greg's character Phil Coulson for the entirety of the season. I was just going to call her, here we go, Molly Shannon. You're just Molly Shannon. Bev Mellon does not exist. But no, I do not think.
I did that all last season with Robert Taubert. I could not remember that guy's
We still
name.
get comments, by the way, about Robert Taubert with people using the full apparent government name for Robert, which is, I don't even remember what his real name is now, Robert Taubert. But no, I do not think it is Bev Mellon, thank you
Bev
very
Mellon.
much. I just think that she, once again, she's got too much of a financial incentive to have
Yes.
done this, where it would have tripped everything up dramatically.
Yeah, it's tough.
I am leaning in the direction not of the brothers, those weird
The brother
directors.
sisters.
The brothers, I'm not, it's not the brother sisters. My suspects from the movie world are more the people who we met who have smaller roles in the production. We saw like 3 or 4 of them. It's so early. There's no point in even like knowing who they are. But it feels like these are people we're going to see again. And if you want to kill Charles and you maybe tried, you hired somebody to do it at the Arconia, it didn't work. It didn't make sense to try to join the production and find a way to get close to him again there. Maybe you don't have the money to hire somebody else. Maybe you're just like, I got to take this into my own hands at this point.
Yeah, and if it's somebody who joined the movie late, then
Yeah.
they don't have as much of a financial incentive as, say, Bev Mellon, who's,
Yeah.
A producer at Paramount, which again is still like the craziest thing, that Paramount or producer at Paramount would be 3 weeks out from filming and they do not have the life rights of
Yeah.
the people that they are doing this with. They have paid cast members, production people, sets, locations, camera equipment, like millions of dollars have already gone into this and you haven't signed that off. This show wants me to suspend
I know.
disbelief on a lot of things, but that is not one of them. Like, stop it.
It's the worst thing that this season has done so far. I mean, to me, it's clearly just a function of the fact that they did not know they were doing this when they wrote the end of season 3. So they're just trying to makeshift, find a way to make it work so you don't think about it all that much, and they just keep on keeping on.
Okay, we're going to get into my Scott Bakula theory a little bit later. We're going to get into what I teased about the idea that Sazz set this up to kill Charles herself and that her death was an accident.
Okay.
And a lot of it that it's coming from the fact of how obsessed she was with his life and that she was dressing like him on and off the set. She's living in his apartment. She's dating all his women, getting into deep relationships with them. Like, I know it's been kind of like a joke throughout the series, be like, ha ha ha, but like, let's all like take a minute here. And if this was happening to you in real life and you had somebody who was your friend that was like wearing your clothes and sleeping in your bed and like taking over your lease and dating all your women,
Yeah.
at some point I'd be like, there's something wrong here. Like, this person is like straight up stalking my life. Like, this is not right. And it feels like somebody you're going to come home and Sazz is, boiling the pet on the stove kind of thing. It just feels like it's a very thin line between like this, we'll try to call it a healthy obsession, but it's not. The whole thing is just a comical obsession to, I want to wear your skin and I just want to be Charles. So is it possible that she would have money to do this?
Yeah.
She's living in LA. LA's not cheap. She's been working in the industry a long time. She would have the money to do this. So let's say, did she hire a hitman to kill him out of jealousy because she just wants to be Charles at this point? And if Charles is no longer in the scene, then she moves into that lifestyle. She is the new Charles.
I think because Sazz is so unhinged as a character, if we take the goofiness and the bits out of this, you're exactly right. This is somebody who, to the point where she's dated Jan, who is behind bars for trying to kill Charles.
Right.
Like, she is completely out of her mind. And because of this, I think this theory is plausible. And this is something that could happen.
Yeah, like when she said to Charles, listen, I have something sensitive to talk to you about later. And the fact she has all these setups, it seems like, all over her desk. They could be clues, but they could be setups. Like, why does she need to have a piece of paper that says West Tower Arconia? Like, what is this about? Now, I'm not saying with my full chest that it's Sazz. I actually don't. But there is smoke here that it could possibly be. She could have easily said to Charles, hey, I have something sensitive to talk to you about later, to be able to lure him to the place where he needed to be able to be killed. And then because it was going to be timed in a certain way where she would then be like, okay, hitman, you're gonna kill Charles at whatever, 11 p.m. at night. And she's like, oh, but it's only 9 o'clock at night. So I'm just going to go up and get that bottle. It doesn't matter. The hitman's probably not set up yet. Like, I said that we would talk later. I've given a specific time. And she just thought it would be okay to go up there and grab the wine because maybe the hitman wasn't set up anymore. And the hitman's on the other side being like, oh, hello, they just showed up at the apartment. This has to be him. Like, why would anybody else be there? This is the description. And they shot their shot, and it was Sazz.
I think the fact that we're in season 4 at this point, the writers are probably sitting over somewhere with the, I don't know, the Community Darkest Timeline evil goatees, and they're just sort of thinking, we have to do something that is so creative, so mind-blowing.
It would be mind-blowing.
And it would be, that is a huge mind-blowing twist that I think a lot of people would not see coming. This is also why I think it would be hilarious and awesome if the Scott Bakula theory that you came up with was right, just because it's such a big mind-blowing thing to have like an actual A-lister, not necessarily, you know, the real Scott Bakula would never do this, but being willing to play a character who would be willing to do this. Like, it's such a big fun leap, and Scott would deserve so much applause for being willing to go through with that.
Yeah, okay, we'll get into the Scott Bakula of it all. I get much deeper into it, of course, over at our review. If you haven't checked that out, make sure that you do. But, I mean, listen, Scott Bakula is a really huge, iconic name in television. What he said to Charles when they met up, where he was kind of like, hey, man, it's nice to see another old guy with white hair, you know, moving up in the world from TV to film. And there is that hierarchy in film and television and theater where you're moving up in fame and fame and fame, and being a movie star is like the highest rung of fame and making it kind of thing, getting that Oscar, whatever it is, right? So was he saying that because he was genuinely like, hey, man, like, all of us and the Mark Hermans of the world, we're all in the same Brazos boat. You know, it's nice to see one of us get out, and he's being like, good on you? Or it's something that's a little bit jealous, and he's just like, I'm not having this. Like, no way is this guy gonna have a movie made about him starring Eugene Levy when I was the captain of Enterprise. And that it's something that's like a very long running rivalry that he's having with Charles, or if he just jealousy feelings he's been hiding all this time. Or we also have the Joy of it all. Is it possible that Joy is still hung up on Charles, and Scott's like, I don't need this headache. Like, I've got the money. I've got my Star Trek money. Let's just take out Charles. And then Joy will just be with me and everything will be fine. Or is he upset that Charles treated Joy so badly? And it's like, not on my watch. You're going to treat my woman like that. Andrea Martin is a treasure. How dare you? I love you, Scott.
If you don't love Scott, I have questions.
But don't kill Charles.
Don't kill Charles. But also, Scott, if you did kill Charles, I was the captain of the Enterprise line. If he says that, it might be one of the greatest moments of my TV watching life. Like, I will say that right now. This is why I love the theory, because it's just super interesting. Like, yeah, there's a universe where this is just like a cameo and we never see Scott again, but that's not fun. I think the idea of him being a killer is just so super fun.
That's the thing, is like, we've said it before, they're friends. The creator of the show, Scott, they've worked on other shows before. They are friends. So would Scott come and do a cameo for him? Of course. Like, I feel like absolutely. He wants to get to do a cameo and he's in a scene with Steve Martin. Yeah. Of course he's going to say yes. Yeah. But I also feel like, because the creators worked with Scott before and they really enjoy working together and he knows what Scott is capable of, it feels like in my gut that I'm just like, could he have easily been like, listen, you want to be the murderer? Cool. Let's like make this work. And Scott was like, I'm in. Like, I don't really get to play roles like that.
Let's just throw something out here as a reminder. Interviews during the season are not canon. This is very important. You know, we're recording this at a time before the premiere has come out. There might be interviews that come out where, you know, the creator says, oh, you know, Scott was a part of this one episode, or that he's going to say something that like, oh, we're not going to see Nathan Lane this season. And that's important because about where I'm about to go. But it's just like, you know, they're not going to give away things in interviews. That's just not going to happen.
We have seen interviews where creators have straight up lied about things.
Yes.
And I understand why. you've got an interviewer who's going to ask a question, and this shouldn't have ever happened anyways. You're going to have interviews that are going to ask a question that they can't answer, because if they're like, "You're right, you got me, Scott's the killer," like one episode is aired, it's just not fair to ask that question in the first place. They have to lie about it. Like, stop it. Don't ask those questions.
Okay, it's time, everybody. Bust out your prosciutto and your hard salami. We are talking.
Let's go dips.
Teddy Dimas, the Deli King of New York City.
Love.
Okay, here's the thing about Teddy as a suspect here. He's probably going to be a suspect for every murder that happens on this show between now and whenever it inevitably ends, just because there's such a history there with him and the trio. And we know that, you know, he's had some prison history. You know, we know that, you know, this is definitely a case of, okay, he might have been able to find a way to hire somebody in order to do this. Like, it's a compelling idea if the show wants to go into the, oh, we're going to make this particular murder case about all of the seasons. Now, there are a couple of problems about this, I will just admit from the start. Number one, we don't know if Nathan Lane's showing up. Number two, it is the idea
we didn't know Scott was showing up, and here he is, right?
It's true. I mean, Nathan Lane probably doesn't have anything to do with the movie. I think it's probably going to be connected to the movie somehow. Like,
yeah, it probably is. This is all just fun.
Yeah, like I'm pretty aware of that. The other big thing here, though, is just that, in particular, Teddy has a very checkered history with Oliver, and I know they sort of came to terms with some of it or whatever, but it's kind of like, if you're going to take out Charles, aren't you also going to take out Oliver? Aren't you just going to try to get rid of all of them?
That's the thing. I mean, if Teddy's going to take out anybody, then it's going to be Oliver probably, right?
Yeah.
But like, maybe there's another part of the past that hasn't come out completely that Teddy knows about Charles, because there is some smoke on him as well, where it's like, yeah, he's got this checkered past. He's got money. He lives in the Arconia, so he has money to be able to hire him in, and he knows where the incinerator is, and he knows how to work it, because people who live in the building do.
Yeah.
So is he a suspect? Yes, he is. He absolutely is.
I can't rule him out at this point.
No, you can't. And staying in that same vein, Jan is also a suspect.
Yeah.
She's also lived in this building. She knows that there's an incinerator there. She had the big confrontation at the incinerator down at the bottom. Like, she knows this building well enough to be able to instruct somebody from jail, or if she's escaped jail, whatever it is. We don't know where she is. We just know she's in jail at the moment. We don't know what storyline's coming up for her. But like, she also has the money. She has the money. She lives in the Arconia. She knows the layout of the Arconia. She's tried to kill Charles already, and she has motive to try to kill him. It's personal. So like, could it be Jan? Yeah, it could be. It could be any of his exes. I mean, let's talk about Cookie. Cookie was in the like trailer by name, really. There was like that whole like murder board, and on the murder board, it's like, okay, who's really connected deeply here to both of these people, Charles and Sazz? And you've got Jan and you've got Cookie, who we haven't really gotten to know well at all, but it's like, there's a pretty deep past there. She was dating Charles for a long time, and then Sazz came in and snaked her out, and apparently then Cookie dumped her too, right? So we don't really know a lot about her, but she's tied to them.
Well, this is the delicious thing about this season in general, in the same way that Teddy Dimas's deli meats are delicious. So is the idea that Charles... he's an older gentleman, which means that he has had a lot of history, a lot of people from his past, some of which we have come to hear about, some of which we probably have not. And that gives the show unlimited possibilities as to where they can go with people who might want something to happen to him.
Okay, let's talk about Joy as a possibility as well.
All right.
Now, do I think she's got the money to pull this off as a makeup artist? Probably not. But could she have saved up? Yeah, but she would have had to been saving up for a really long time to make that happen. But you've had the theory, the idea that it could be somebody who could afford a hit once, right? And maybe not again. So that's a possibility, right? She knows the building as well. She was there with Charles. She was going to marry Charles, right?
Yeah.
But Charles did her so dirty. Are we having somebody who's a jilted bride that's like, no, how dare you? I'm hiring a hitman. She's really hurt. It's possible. That's a motive. It's not like we haven't seen that before on TV or movies.
So I think when we're looking at the larger suspect list at this point, there's a couple of things we have to be acutely aware of here. Number one, they had to have had the money to hire somebody if they hired somebody, which we
If they
both,
did. Yeah.
we both tend to think that they did. But they also have to be quicker on their feet enough to know that, okay, this is not Charles that's dead. If Charles was the target, so we need to find a way to dispose of this. You also have to be strong enough to be able to carry that body. I mean, Jane Lynch is a pretty tall woman. I think it's not going to be easy to just go and move that body. And then beyond all of that, you also, if you are the hitman, you either need to know that there's an incinerator there, or you need to be able to communicate well enough with whoever did hire you that the incinerator is there. Like, there's a lot of things that have to line up in this particular act. Also, you probably need like +10 stealth skill in order to sneak around the Arconia at this time where we know that people were out and about and active, because all of this happened while Charles and the trio were sort of celebrating the end of their show that closed almost immediately after the fact.
Yeah, I feel like the incinerator just feels like a big clue, because you would have to know this building or know somebody who knows this building. Like, let's say the motive, Scott's the killer and the motive is Joy. Joy knows the building, so Joy's going to know that there's an incinerator there. It could be them in on it together, sort of thing. And whoever instructed the hitman knows that that incinerator is there, and that shortens the list.
It's a great list. Like, I'm so excited about figuring this stuff out because we have so many suspects. We're only an episode in. I know there's people who are probably complaining that they did not give us 2 episodes back to back this season. I'm glad they didn't, because you know why? It gives us more time to talk about the show.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. That's our list of suspects here for Only Murders in the Building season 4 right now. But hit that subscribe button, because Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Pacific time, reviews every week, previews after that, theories every Wednesday. Join our Patreon. Link is in the description below. You can vote for what shows we're going to cover next, whether it be Tulsa King, The Old Man, or then also The Penguin. Thank you to our patrons, and we'll see you here next time.